One of the things that really works for me in my community with ticketing children is an example of an article in the paper that I took where a young girl lost her life due to a bike accident and she wasn't wearing her helmet, and the helmet would have saved her life. I took that article and stapled it to a ticket that I issued to one of the young kids in my community. And the parents, when they read it, they realized how important it was to instill in their children having a bike helmet on while they're riding their bike, and not just looking at the ticket as a financial burden. So it made me feel like I was actually giving back, to the community, where I let them realize how important it was to have bike helmets on.
If you only had one day in law enforcement, you'd know what these scenes are. If you wanted, you could take hours looking at different scenes, showing different responsibilities in police work, never repeat yourself, and it would all look familiar. The job's that diverse. But one responsibility, one scene is still relatively rare, and that's this one. Even though you know what it is, a person on a bike getting a ticket from an officer, you also know it doesn't look that familiar. You don't see that every day on the street. Probably because for many officers, it doesn't look that good either. The whole idea can go against your grain. It isn't just that you can almost hear that passing motorist thinking, pick on somebody your own size, or doesn't he have anything else better to do? But there's more to it than that. There are the other officers you work with, including supervisors who think the same thing, and you know it. It doesn't look good. And there's your own memory of having your own bike as a kid, and all that it meant to you, all the things you could make it do. You could go in, under, around, almost anything. Good times. You probably never got a ticket. You sure didn't expect one, because if there were rules, other than just be careful, they didn't apply to you and to your bike. So now, you don't like giving a kid a ticket for violating 49 sections of the vehicle code in 2 blocks. You're looking at her and you know she was told police officers help people, and here she is getting strangely punished in a way that may or may not mean anything to her by a person she doesn't know for something she does not understand. Put all this together, all these influences on you, add a few more of your own, and this becomes the familiar scene. He's riding on the wrong side of the street, you go right on by. He makes an illegal left turn in traffic, right on by. Runs a stop sign, right on by. That's the way police responded when you were a kid, and unless you see them nearly causing an accident, that's still pretty much the way it's going to be today. Unfortunately, as you know, the world has changed a little since you were a kid. In fact, no one knows better than an officer of the law. That where there used to be quiet streets, there are cars everywhere, more and more every day. Less room for bikers, less room for air. Then turn around and add more bikes because there are more kids and more people in general preferring bike riding to cars, a bike boom, and the game between bikes and cars starts to get a little dangerous. Primarily because one side, the bikes, one whole section of vehicular traffic is still pretty much allowed to operate outside the law, and they are suffering for it. In recent years, Florida's annual bicyclist fatality rate has been, on average, the highest in the country. Reviews of bicycle fatalities on state highways have found that bicyclists were at fault in about 70% of the cases. The child cyclist who has no training and little information when they begin to ride is at the biggest risk for making errors and for causing crashes. Most of the riders killed in Florida were not wearing helmets, which can prevent up to 80% of serious head injuries. About 60% of the crash victims were riding in non-daylight conditions, often without the required lights. Many of them were impaired by alcohol. Simply put, we have far too many bicycle crashes and fatalities in Florida when compared to other states. We have a lot of people on the roads, and proper roadway sharing, combined with informed vehicle users, should help greatly in crash prevention. For the most part, the cyclist who causes a crash gets hurt. Now, what's worse in all this is that the study also showed that children, kids 15 and under, who account for only 8% of the bicycle traffic, are involved in almost half of the crashes. And adult cyclists only add to the problem since they, more likely than not, were the children that accidentally survived the same bad behaviors. Now, statistics are fine. They help make a point. This is what it looks like. There's no doubt it's getting more familiar. If last year you were called to a scene like this, you can bet this year you'll be called to 2, the next year 3, and the next year 4. You're going to have to take a report, determine cause, and you know what you'll find. He was on the wrong side of the street. He made an illegal left turn into traffic. He ran a stop sign or red light.